as we learn more disturbing details about migrants who were kidnapped by the Trump regime and sent to El Salvador concentration camps without due process, we are seeing how the Trump regime's propagandists are trying to respond. Like after this individual by the name of Kilmar Abreu Garcia, an individual from Maryland, was sent to this El Salvador concentration camp, and then the Trump regime admitted in the court filing that it was an administrative error, that this person was not supposed to go there. But their response was, oopsies. For those watching, you can literally see this is from the Trump regime's DOJ. The removal was an error. So anyone who argues it wasn't an error, I'm using their words. It says it was an error. So this is how Caroline Leavitt, the chief propagandist, I guess they still call it a press secretary, but it's a chief propagandist, the pink dress lady for Trump. This is what she says when she's asked about the judge's ruling. Play this clip.
This administration is going to continue to deport foreign terrorists and illegal criminals from our nation's interior.
But a judge ordered that he should remain in this country. So are you saying that it is okay to ignore a judge's ruling if you don't like it?
Who does that judge work for?
He's an immigration
It was an
judge.
immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, whose name is Pam Bondi, who has committed to eradicating MS-13 from our nation's interior. And let me...
Who does the judge work for? And then she says the judge works for Pam Bondi. Well, Pam Bondi said it was an error, and the judge was one of the judges was a 2019 judge, immigration judge, who said that this individual does not go back to El Salvador based on the showing that was made. Let's bring in Harry Littman. Harry, I just want to give some more facts here. There was an allegation that was made in the 2018-2019 period by like an informant against this person that there could be a gang affiliation. There was never a conviction of gang affiliation. There was never a trial. There was never anything like that. It was actually a Trump judge in the Trump administration from 2019. This was not during the Biden administration, even though J.D. Vance is saying in 2019, an immigration judge under the Biden administration made this determination. It was a Trump judge. In fact, the person was working in Maryland. That's part of what the judge said. The person could go back to work. This person was checking into ICE when they were supposed to check in regularly here based on that order. ICE said this person was not to go to El Salvador, but they made an error where they sent this individual from Maryland, there. And now the regime, you see, they triple down. J.D. Vance was, saying, terrorists, they're all terrorists. And look, if ultimately this individual was supposed to be deported under the system that we have, there's a system. The system does not involve going to concentration camps in El Salvador, especially when the order says no El Salvador. So if the issue was this person goes back to another country under the deportation rule, we could at least have an honest conversation about that's the process, but we immediately go into this Orwellian world of terrorists, and then there's no ability to speak like rational constitution following Americans who respect due process. Harry, break it all down for us.
Wow. It's just wow. So let's separate out, Ben, what they did and then their unbelievably double-speak, Orwellian's a good word, attempts to justify. I don't give a shit if he was or was not adjudicated to be possibly a member of MS-13. He wasn't supposed to be on the plane, period, full stop. It could just as well. First of all, we don't even know what other people, there's been allegations that there are others, but just take a step back. This is the ultimate Kafka-esque nightmare. This is the reason you have due process. A guy who's not supposed to be there is stuck on a plane, sent down to a hellhole. And of course, the U.S. position now, and it's an accurate one, is nothing you can do about it because we don't have jurisdiction over El Salvador. So the actual thing that happened to this guy, and I don't care if he's 7/8 a terrorist, 150, he's not supposed to go, and they screwed up It is a stunning Alderman nightmare. Now let's go to what they're saying. So start with each one. Levitt. Man, I can hardly listen to her talk. She's like nails on a chalkboard because she just doesn't know anything about the law. He works for Pam Bondi. What in God's name is that supposed to mean? That Pam Bondi could lift a finger and say you send him anyway? No, as you say, the point is they screwed up, and that they're not standing up and saying it, except to the extent they have to, is absolutely derelict, shabby, so below what any administration should do to any court. J.D. Vance, worse. Right, he wasn't convicted, but the notion, got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. And he's part of MS-13 anyway. He's a guy, by the way, not that it matters, but he's a guy who was adjudicated. He did everything he's supposed to do. And he's here because there's a good faith possibility that he'll be totally harassed or worse by going back down there. But it doesn't matter. They made a mistake, and now there's nothing they can do about it. That's a screaming argument for why you can't just trust the executive without any kind of review to just send down whoever the hell he feels like. But they're actually saying, as I read them, Levitt and Van, maybe we make a mistake here. Mistake here or there. These are innocent people who don't belong there, who now may be disappeared forever under the most brutal conditions known in the Western Hemisphere. They should be red-faced to their toes. And this Trumpian kind of strategy of never say we did anything wrong, it is friggin' crazy. What she's essentially saying is we can take anyone we want who's got any kind of ever been adjudicated part of MS-13 and just ship them down. That's wrong, and wrong again. As you say, there's a possible process in place that they could try to go another round of people like this. But then, of course, and they've even admitted as much, there'd be due process protection. So the guy would be able to make his claim. The only thing to say now is, man, did we screw up? Man, we are sorry. A single innocent person down there who we don't have the power to call back, that is an aberration. That is not America. And we totally screwed up. But because of this political instinct that they can never say we did wrong in order to keep MAGA on base, they're doing what is in legal terms, constitutional terms, an utter abomination to not fall on your sword here when you sent somebody who shouldn't have been there down there maybe forever, and there may be others. It is friggin' revolting.
Harry, and the Trump regime won't even send sympathies or on its own address the 4 soldiers who died in Lithuania, 4 American soldiers. They refuse to address our own troops who died in Lithuania. Trump was asked about it at a press conference in the Oval Office on Monday, and he described the weight of the truck falling on a bridge. He described it like a toy truck is the words that he used, but no statements, no posts. He posts a lot about him golfing. So I bring that up because do you think he'll acknowledge anything like this ever if he's not even going to acknowledge our own troops who died in Lithuania because he can't send sympathies because he's incapable of doing things? And then I'll just say this, and then I'll throw it to you for kind of your kind of closing thoughts. It's why Judge Chen in California's ruling is so important, because when Trump wants to revoke the status, the TPS, temporary protected status of all Venezuelans, by the way, a lot of Venezuelans were Trump supporters. The Southern Florida Venezuelans for
and
Trump
not gang members,
and not gang members. But why Judge Chen's order? And Judge Chen says you are racially profiling the Venezuelan community and calling them all gang members. You're calling them all Tren de Aragua. Judge Chen says that in his ruling. He goes, Bondi, Noam, Trump. You're lumping all Venezuelans and saying they're gang members. And the implication there, though, for the Venezuelan community is that you're going to wind up in El Salvador concentration camps or be sent back to Maduro in Venezuela, where you fled as political exiles, where you were embraced in the United States, where you are now contributing to our economy under TPS status. And it's not just a matter of, oh, I'm revoking status. It's that his act is tantamount to the death penalty for a lot of these people. And that, as human beings, we shouldn't be okay with, and we shouldn't stand silent and idly by. Harry, I'll let you get the closing thoughts.
And the official spokesperson for the White House, this is her view, wagging her finger, she suggests, well, Bondi could have fired someone for not being true to Donald Trump. All of it, doublespeak doesn't matter. This is somebody who should not have been there. And you're absolutely right. If he hasn't apologized now, and this is one of the marks of a leader, which he just totally lacks, I don't see that he's going to do it. All of that, though, his bad manners, his utter incapacity for saying we screwed up, all of that is just secondary next to, you cannot construct a bigger nightmare and a bigger instance of a judicial system gone awry than taking someone who shouldn't be there and sending them down permanently to the equivalent. I mean, I think a lot of people would take the death penalty over this place from what I read about it. But the notion that this isn't anathema to the justice system as it exists is itself as strong an indictment of Bondi, Levitt, Trump, the whole goddamn gang. This is the biggest nightmare conceivable. It's said, Ben, you've heard this before. We used to hold to this quaint view, better 100 guilty people go free than an innocent be convicted. Ha, ha, ha. But the notion that they actually did it, sent someone down, and the vice president of the United States and the spokesman in the White House is saying, oh, well, that's the way it goes if you want to get MS-13 out, makes anyone who cares about justice or the Constitution or due process, not to mention this guy, head spin around 360 8 times consecutive. It is so offensive to the Constitution, due process, and just humanity values.
Harry Litman, Talking Feds YouTube, Talking Feds podcast, and the Talking Feds Substack. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Talking Feds. Harry Litman, top federal prosecutor, former top federal prosecutor, former top federal DOJ official. It's where I get my legal news from, so check it out. Again, Talking Feds YouTube, then Talking Feds on Substack, and then Talking Feds podcast. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.